back with comedian Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. So went to Taz and Chris's wedding last night. Podcast listeners of the podcast, I turned up to their wedding. I tell you what, when you're sitting at the dinner table with strangers and they ask you how you know the bride and groom, it gets complex when you're in my position there. I had to explain it like 3 or 4 times. There was this French dude. Everyone at my table was fucking cool, by the way. There was this French dude. I don't know how much he was worth, but I would say somewhere around $100 million, if I'm guessing. He seemed rich as fuck, but he asked and I'm explaining. I'm like, well, I do a podcast and they listen to it. And yeah, now I'm here. What about you? And the people around from the French dude and his Irish wife were like first cousins. They're like, oh, we're the first cousins. He's like, yeah, my mum's sisters with Taz's dad. You know, like that's how we know each other. How do you know them again? I'm like, well, if you type in I'm quitting alcohol on Spotify, it's a podcast, and yeah. So, yeah, we're pretty much as close as you, I suppose. But people were fucking cool on my table. We had another guy who had spent time with fucking Leonard Crowdog, the chief of chiefs in South Dakota, like the American Indian, like the head guy. And he lived with them for a while and learnt about like peyote ceremonies and just life, really. And now he does like sweat lodges and vision quests, which is, I'm not actually sure what a vision quest is, but it sounds fucking sick. It sounds fucking sweet. And there was another guy on my table who was married to, I think it was Chris's cousin or Taz's cousin, one of them. It was definitely one of the two people. Anyway, he seemed like a fucking good dad. He said something really I found cool. He has 3 kids. I think he has 2 boys and a girl. And he's like, we've got all 3 of them in dance classes now because I don't want my sons to have like 12 beers before they hit the dance floor like I have to. And I'm like, that is great fathering. Absolutely fucking A+ fathering. Because I've thought the same thing for myself. I should take dance classes so I don't have to have fucking like 30 beers to get out there. 12 is not enough. It's getting slightly easier to dance. Like I did have a little bit of a fucking boogie last night. But if you got like some good tunes, I can get out there if it's good music. Anyway, the wedding was great. Well, the reception was great. The church stuff, I don't know. I don't know about the church stuff. I mean, it was beautiful, but fucking hell, there's something about Christianity and church sermons and verses that, Jesus Christ, it's just so boring. Like, it just doesn't resonate with me for some reason. I like the truth and honesty, be a good person stuff. When they sort of like veer in towards Buddhism, I like that sort of stuff because there's a lot of crossover between Christianity, Catholicism, and fucking Buddhism. It's all really just be a good person. That's it. But when they start talking about like Jesus and actually not Jesus, I don't mind Jesus, just the other guys. What are the other guys on about? Like names I've never even heard of. Who are these characters? Like Tibot or some shit. I don't even know who John is. Who's John? But you know, like give in to the Holy Spirit, all that sort of stuff. I don't know. It just doesn't resonate with me. And I'm watching the priest and I'm like, listen, try and soak it all in. And I'm really focusing. And I'm like, why isn't it hitting? Because it's hitting the priest hard. He's involved. He loves the words he's saying. He loves Christ. He loves all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, all right, let me get a little bit of that in me. And it just didn't get in deep. And I'm like, that priest really is a Holy Spirit. And then fast forward like a couple of hours later, I see that same priest about 4 or 5 Coronas deep texting. I don't know who he was texting, but he was having a good drink. And then later I find out fucking Chris, the groom, had to get baptized like the week before. Apparently baptism or getting baptized, you have to take a 3-week Christianity course, which is wild. Christianity shouldn't be like fucking putting any barriers to entry. You need the people. It should be the same getting into Christianity as it is just getting your fucking RSA, your responsible service of alcohol. It's just 3 hours online and you're done. And then drop a bit of water on your head. A 3-week course. What do you need to know? Jesus is good, do good things, God, love. Mary was a virgin. What else? But yeah, Chris was telling me he had to go to the priest's house to do some study. And he walks into the priest's house and the priest is like, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to do this in my bedroom today. This is no shit. And I'm like, what the fuck? He's like, yeah, it was a bit strange. I'm like, what was his excuse? He said, oh, there was some cleaning going on or something. I'm like, what if you were like a 12-year-old boy? Let's not dig too deep into that anyway. It was a great ceremony. It was a great wedding. I tell you what, Taz's speech was one of the funniest wedding speeches I've ever... Well, it was the funniest wedding speech I've ever heard. It was so fucking funny. I don't know if you remember, this is for like the hardcore listeners. Taz was one of the agents of chaos when Andrew Roberts came and did the gig. She was the one who went to the bar and started going off her head at the fucking bar manager as well. So she was also an agent of chaos. It was Stingray Thunder, Miles Milson, Andrew Roberts, and Taz. They were the chaos agents. So she did her speech and fuck, she nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. It was pretty close to a 10 out of 10. And Chris's speech was funny as fuck too. And I'm not just saying that. I was actually laughing out loud. I was like, this is good. The rest of the speeches, actually, Taz's daughter, her speech was great too. And the rest of the speeches, I hope they don't listen, but they left a little bit to be desired. They tried to wing it, and when you're not experienced, like when you haven't been in front of the crowd, when you haven't been on the mic much, and you try and wing it, you run out of things to say so quickly, and then it's just sort of rambling. And a lot of it was like that. But yeah, it was great, and my wife was absolutely fucking hammered. She was so fucking annoying. We had a massive fight on the drive home. She can't even remember what the fuck she was saying, but it was fucking annoying. She doesn't usually tip over the edge to annoying drunk, but fuck, when she does, it's hard to get through. It's hard to get her to fucking listen. Anyway, it was great. Fucking had a ball. I got nervous for a second as well because right after the speeches and the cutting of the cake, I think it was, they both, Taz and Chris, both had glasses of champagne. And I forget how long Chris has been sober now, like 2 years maybe or something like that, 2.5 years. And they cheersed and Chris downed a fucking whole glass of champagne. And it looked like he was like, oof. I was like, oh my God, don't tell me. He started his married life getting back on the booze. So I went up to him because I was like, I was going to say, don't have another one. Do not have another one because it's fucking all over if you do. I was like, was that real champ? And he was like, no way. I'm like, Jesus Christ, thank God. Anyway, I was real nervous. Anyway. Great wedding, great couple. It was fun. That'll do for tonight. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you the fuck later.